What's up YouTube? This is ApologyMan. I'm going to be making today a Faust matchup chart. I've been kind of holding off on putting up any Faust matchup charts throughout, like, I guess all of Season 1, but we're getting pretty close to Season 2, and I've played against a majority of the cast pretty extensively. There's still a few characters I haven't, like, fought really well or a lot. I think, like, I'll mention it when I get to them. But I think I have a pretty good opinion on like where I think Faust stands versus a lot of the characters in the cast. So let's get into it. All right, let's get into it. Let's get into the details, the nitty gritty. I know there's some hot takes on your screen right now, maybe to you, but I've been playing Faust for a while. I feel like I can back up this these claims with some evidence. So let's go one by one through the tier list, or the matchup chart, and I'll let you know what I think. I gotta preface this. I don't think Faust wins a single matchup super hard. I think every character in the game has like a pretty good shot at like fighting him. Like the best matchup I think Faust has in the game is versus Goldlewis currently. And this is kind of speaks to like his like flaws as a character. He himself gets dumpstered, but he cannot dumpster other characters. And I really do think that's like one of Faust's biggest problems. I think a lot of people think Faust just gets dumpstered like throughout the whole cast. Not true at all, in my opinion. Not true at all. But not being able to win a matchup super hard is actually kind of annoying. Like it's kind of ass. But you know, I'm more preoccupied with being able to lose less matchups and rather than win super hard. You know, because then it's just player versus player, right? But, you know, Faust also loses a lot of matchups too. But anyway. Alright, let's talk about Goldlewis. It's pretty straightforward why Goldlewis has problems with Faust. He's really slow, so it's very hard for him to get in on him. He can jump, and that's like a lot of Goldlewis players' approach at like the mid-range. It's really hard to anti-air this move generally, but I think Faust has like a really good 6P to deal with this. And I think 5k at like this range is good as like a preemptive option. So he has like good anti-airs versus that approach, and when he's just full screen versus him, like you can just throw items on items on items, and it's really hard for Goldlewis to like get in on him. Where the matchup starts to like change, I think, is when you get to the higher security levels, right? So I think personally, doing machine gun is not that good at higher security levels. I think it's better at the lower security levels. If you have that high security level, it's better to spend it on doing drone, in my opinion. Because when you're going for the Gatling gun, like you're usually trying to read an item throw, and if it has to basically like it has to hit, right? And if it doesn't, you're like, wow, that sucks. He crawls right under the machine gun, which is really bad, honestly. There's like you don't get any chip, no wrist, nothing. Like it's rough. So I think that's bad. So what happens at like the later stages of the game when he gets the high security levels, you can put out the drone full screen, kind of come in with it. And this is actually pretty scary, legitimately, for Faust. So when you're at those higher security levels, you as Faust have to like basically play at the mid-range of like 2H tip range, so you can threaten punishing him for going for this drone. That's really important. But, you know, now that I'm forced to slightly approach Goldlewis, then Goldlewis can use this threat to, like, do more behemoths, blah, 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 get to his win condition. So, I do think Faust wins really hard, but I do think Goldlewis still has options in this matchup, regardless. So Baiken is actually pretty interesting. The reason I think this is a pretty advantageous matchup is for, like, one really major reason. There's other reasons, obviously, but this is the biggest reason. You see that? Do it from here. You can crawl under H. Kabari. That is very big. Like, basically, like you get a whiff punish. Like if you're looking for it, like you can consistently whiff punish this. If she does like the follow up, it still doesn't matter. They'll just get counter hit. It actually gets even worse. You can't string into H. Kabari. It's pretty bad, like honestly. She has problems with dive kick as well. Another thing that's like really good with her is she has like the early air dash jump S into Yozansen, right? This is actually kind of annoying because you're really tall. Like, you have to do like a perfect 6P. But what you can also do is crawl it. Like, like crawl is really good versus her, honestly. And while she does have the parry, which is pretty annoying for her, for Afro Oki, for example. Right? Can't detonate her Afro without the counter threat. Pretty annoying, honestly. But, you know, you have some options. You can just do a quick little bag here, and that still detonates it pretty well. You can also just, like, fake the safe jump, too, and, like, get, like, a pretty fat punish. And, like, do, like, close slash or whatever. So, it's not that bad. But I think being able to crawl those buttons are really huge to, like, Baiken's ground game, so the fact that you can crawl them is very good for you. And yeah, I think you can throw a lot of items versus her. Like her dash is like okay, so yeah. So Potemkin, Faust has always historically done really well versus Potemkin. It's pretty straightforward. He's big and slow, therefore your buttons go very far and you can throw a lot of items. So as Potemkin, like it's a lot of walking forward that like you have to do to like get in on him, and you have the threat of a slide head. Which is important, right? You have to threaten the slide head to like call out the item throws every once in a while. It's pretty hard to even do like more than one item throw at times if they're really slide head heavy. So because if they're very slide head heavy, it's important to do this as like a reaction check and punish the slide head. So that's pretty rare, honestly. Another thing is flick. So doing flick versus Afro Love is super important. You see that? You can flick that. And another thing that's really important to flick as well is Faust's bomb. So this, in my opinion, is the biggest skill check in the matchup, by far. Like that. You see that? It combos into it too, if it does hit. So playing bomb tennis versus Potemkin actually sucks if they're good at timing flick. So those items get a little bit weaker, but it's not that bad. Also, meteors as well. Meteors is another one too. You cannot, no, it's a good question, Kevin. You cannot flick Mini Faust. You actually cannot flick that item. And you cannot flick the Trumpet Stampede as well, which is actually pretty bad for him. So you can also flick the meteors, just like this. Bam. It has pretty weird interactions at times, depending on where the meteors lands. But yeah, I think his matchup's good. You can throw a lot of items in general. A lot of the things that beat item throw are pretty committal on his part. Even if he's doing a lot of slide heads, you can also do stuff like this. And this is like a pretty good situation for you. You know, and that's super easy to react to. Anji. Okay, so there are about, I think, 4 characters in this list that I do think can go down 1 tier at most. One of the characters, actually, in my opinion, is Anji. I do think Anji has potential to be only slightly advantaged. So, most people would think, you know, Anji, worst character in the game. He probably gets dumpstered by Faust. Not the case. He actually has a lot of good options in this matchup. I found out recently, actually, from a local player, Brown, he does 2D. And like it actually low profiles against my 5P. The 2P is also really good too, in like as like a counter poke. This 2P goes very, very far, and it comes out quite quickly. The risk reward also is very good for Anji in terms of like taking risks with spin. You can do a lot of spin. Sure, I can maybe like call it out with like the run up command grab, right? But it's still scary, right? Because there's like Fujin threat. And like whatever, yeah, I don't know his special moves, but yeah, there's like the Fujin threat and all that. So I do think like pretty bad risk reward wise, like yeah, it kind of feels like Soul or like Mei or like some other high damage character, but he still doesn't have neutral as good as theirs. And I think like overall Fujin is like pretty flawed as a move. I think it's like negative a ton, and like he has to go into other options afterwards. So I do think that's bad. Another good thing about this matchup is you can crawl under Butterfly, which is really good. Just like that. I also have the option to stand block it at any time, right? Like a thing that a lot of Anji players do they'll do the butterfly and then they'll like try to run up and throw me because I'm crawling it, right? But I can also do some. I can mix up like when I stand up. So if they do go for something like this, I can be like, whoop, and, and kill them for it. So overall, I do think being able to crawl butterfly is good. Like I've heard hot takes where it's like, oh man, you can crawl it, but like you're just in a worse position. I disagree. I think it is objectively good that you can crawl butterfly. Those are the reasons I think Anji like could go down a tier, but I think it's still pretty Faust favored because you can throw a lot of items. He can spin through meteors as well and like mini Faust and stuff, but you just have to get really good at timing like your meaty after they do a successful spin. It's just like that. You just gotta time that meaty. I've also been getting like I've also been practicing stuff like this, like doing cross up tornado if they do a successful spin. Like you have a lot of frame advantage and you can abuse it in more ways than you would think. Okay, next character is Testament. So Testament, this is one of the matchups I have played pretty little, and it's mostly me going off of what I've heard from other Faust players. Shoutouts to Krakatoa. From what I've heard from him, and from what I've watched as well of like some footage of this matchup, it seems pretty Faust favored, I think. Faust is like a very full screen character, like that can throw a bunch of items, right? Like, and that's good versus other full screen characters generally, like, minus like Axel, I think. But Testament's game is to throw all these like projectiles, and they don't go quite full screen. So Gravedigger, right? It takes some time to get there, right? And that's like the charged one, like it doesn't go all the way there, right? So this is like a very common like, flow chart. So in this scenario, like you usually can throw one item pretty stably. Full screen item, and like it's like a pretty okay situation. Another thing that's really important is Testament stringing into Gravedigger. Oh god. Also yeah, that I just remembered. You can also crawl under this button at like certain ranges, so that's also pretty bad. At like the farther ranges, you can pretty easily reaction jump 2K to punish this, which is pretty bad. Like that's one thing of the matchup, but that is a very crucial thing that I think Faust has over Testament. So overall, like your full screen game is pretty good. You could represent scalpel pull every once in a while. And you have like a pretty good answer to like Gravedigger block strings, I think, with jump 2K. So I think it's pretty Faust favored, at least from what I've seen so far. I can see the matchup changing because Testament is the newest character, so we'll see what happens like later down the line. But at the moment, I think Faust wins this pretty well. So now let's talk about Nagoriyuki. I don't know why. I think I'm maybe one of the few that really thinks this, but I think Faust beats Nago. At first, I used to think Faust used to destroy Nago. I don't believe that anymore. I do think there are some problems in the matchup. He has ways to like completely rob you like pretty early in the match start. Like he can just win like pretty quickly if you're just wrong a few times. But consistently, that's not always gonna happen, right? Like you can't always just like be right match start. Oh, okay, I was right on the gamble. GG. Like that doesn't always happen, and even if it does, you have a burst. So I think Nago has to spend like a fair amount of blood to do what Faust struggles with, which is like Beyblade clone. So because of that, you can use burst, and burst is really important to use properly in this matchup, and you can get him into the level 2 blood. Like this amount of like blood, you burst him off, right? You get this situation a lot. This situation happens very often. You at least get like 2 items pretty consistently, and he doesn't have many things he can do besides walking forward and like hitting like the heavy button. But if you block like a big thing that I do like at that higher blood, right outside the range of it, like throw items. So like at like this range, I'll start throwing items, and they have to like walk forward and like hit a button to like do it, like to stop me from doing item throw. And like if I block one of them and I FD them, that's at least 2 more item throws. If Nago does super jump, you can pretty consistently 5k it. You can 6p it. 6p has some problems versus this as an option, so you don't want to do 6p too much if they start mixing that up, because they can actually punish you there. But if you don't want to play any of that RPS, like you can just crawl under like jump S at that range. Go bam, and you'll always crawl it. Like you just have to wait like a pretty fair amount of time. You can do 5 PPP. And I do think you get a lot of items out. Like that's the trend of all of Faust matchups, is if you can get a ton of items out reliably, it's a good matchup, like straight up. And there isn't that many matchups where that's the case. This is one of them though. So I really do think this is like a good matchup for Faust. Another thing is Fausts SS. So when I'm playing the mid-range versus Nago, a big thing I'm trying to do is check Fukio with jab. So I'm always looking for Fukio super hard, and I'm also dealing with Far Slash at the same time. You see that? While looking for Fukio, I automatically beat like Far SS. So the only things that like he can do like require blood usage. Also, if he does this, like you just get like a free punish. Like that's super good. But you know the match, like you could get hoed match start. Like this can happen to anybody. Like you know I could definitely be like, oh man, I think he's gonna do like this match start. Okay, explode. That's why I usually pick like a passive option at the match start versus Nago. I don't like trying to RPS against him too much. But yeah, I think Faust has a ton of good things going for him in this matchup. So Kyle's interesting. So this is the second character of my side list of characters I could see go down a tier. At the moment, I think Faust beats Kai. But the big thing is I think Kai really struggles to get shock state on Faust. Because of Crawl. It's pretty hard to get shock state on him besides using... I don't know the name of this move, I just call it the Fire Emblem. That's like basically the only way to reliably get shock state on Faust, in my opinion. And that requires you to like have to get close to him, you know? You can't use Charge Stun Edge like Oki very well versus him either. So I can do like, and then stand block and then their throw will whiff just like that. So I think having the crawl threat here is really good. Like it's really hard for them to get shock state. Crawl under there. So yeah, that's big. Another thing, how he deals with just like his overall mid-range in general. You know, Kai's doing like a lot of this, a lot of far slashes. At a certain range, it actually gets crawled under pretty consistently as well. But there is a closer range that it works at. Most of the time though, the Kai isn't using this button, they're usually using 2S. 2S is like the major ground poke along with the 6H. If they're using a lot of 2S though, like jump 2K is pretty good versus it, and like, you know, just doing far slash and like 2H and other stuff. Like you have a lot of good mid-range buttons to fight against Kai, and you have a lot of ways to avoid shock state. Like if I'm playing kind of like preemptive, if I'm looking for Fudra Arc, I'll throw out some 5Ks, you know? It has pretty low whiff recovery, but it also like covers his 6H pretty well too. Where I can see this matchup getting worse over time is Sun Dipper. Sun Dipper is pretty annoying to deal with. When they're at 50 meter, you can do like 2Ps, like far slash, like all these options. They like the RPS situation afterwards, like they all lose to Sun Dipper. It's pretty annoying, honestly. I think this is like probably the most annoying thing about the matchup is Sun Dipper, but that's like about it. His damage is also very good too. And one last thing is you can low profile his DP with 2K, which is really good for meaties, especially if you get some like item meaty. You can do meaty 2K. But yeah, I think this match is pretty good, and historically it's been good for like somewhat similar reasons. But yeah, I do think Faust beats Kai, but it's not by a ton. Not by a ton. So Jacko, I think, is also advantageous. At first, I used to think this matchup was really Faust favored, especially before she got buffed in like the most recent patch. Before it was like pretty pretty bad. I think Faust had like a lot of ways to like kill minions with like 5p, 2k, 5k, and I think those are really good to dealing with like minion chucking in general. You can also cancel on the minion throws and go into scalpel pull, which is also really good. One of the problems I do think that is like annoying versus Jacko is definitely her 5H. So this button is insane. On block, like in like a 2p situation or whatever, this button is quite annoying. Basically, any option that isn't like 2p again will get you traded. And this trade is also positive for Jacko. And just in general, like poking with this button is really scary for Faust, I think. Like it leads to a ton of damage. If she has 50 meter, it can go into super. It's pretty scary. And another thing that's also annoying in this matchup is when you get the afro on her. Because of the Jacko crouch, the Jacko pose, where she does that, you actually don't get rising jump D on her, which is pretty bad. I think that's like pretty bad for a lot of afro setups on her. You actually still have a way to like anti-air like with the afro on, which is pretty rare because the afro extends like your hitbox upwards. Just like that, so you see how it anti-aired. It's pretty annoying. It's pretty annoying, honestly. But like, there's still a lot of nuance to this matchup that I need to learn more of. But overall, I think Faust wins. Next matchup. This one's funny. So Faust versus Faust, right? It's even, but it's a meme matchup. You're in this situation like full screen, where you're just throwing a bunch of items. Like, as the other Faust player, the big thing you have to represent is a scalpel pull. But if you're like looking for scalpel pull like really hard, you could 6p it obviously, and yeah, it's just it's an annoying dynamic. It's definitely the funniest mirror I've ever played in a fighting game. All right, so this matchup, I think this is a bit of a hot take. I think Faust is even with Soul. I've been playing this matchup a lot since the game came out with like Jonathan Tene, Pavo, and I feel like now, after all the nerfs that Soul got, I think the neutral feels pretty good. Like, it feels pretty Faust favored, honestly. Like 6S has been toned down, so now what you can do is crawl under it like that, and that's really scary. It forces like the Soul to like have to use like 2S a lot, and then you know that has like less range, so you can like kind of deal with it a little easier, and like you can do like 5H and stuff. Bandit Bringer, so 5k there, like it'll beat Gunflame and it'll beat Bandit Bringer at the same time, which is pretty good. I think you have like pretty good answers to like his special cancels. 5k is also just good as a counter poke versus him in general. If he's like doing like a lot of this, because he's like extending his hurt box out, like you can throw out these like preemptive 5ks, and they're also beating Bandit Bringer at the same time, which is pretty good, honestly. Jump 2k is also really good in this matchup, like the low one, and 5H is really good. So you have a lot of ways to keep him out. Like Soul's mobility is like it's like not amazing. It's like, it's okay. The problem in this matchup is pretty obvious. It's the damage difference. When he hits you, you take 1,000,000 damage. He's one of the highest damage characters in this game. So if like one thing goes wrong in your zoning strategy, like you can explode. He has great neutral. Like he has a lot of good neutral in a lot of matchups, but it's a reward difference. It's a big reward difference that like kind of evens it out, which I'm okay with. Like I used to hate this matchup because 6S used to be broken, but now I'm like pretty chill with Soul now. I think he's like a pretty cool dude. I think this is an even matchup now. So Ino, I still think there's more I can learn for the matchup, but I think I played it like a fair amount. The thing with Ino is like, I think it's even, but it's cringe. Like I feel like every Ino matchup is pretty cringe throughout the cast. I don't think anyone enjoys fighting this character. She's just constantly RPSing like whatever options, like air dash and stroke and 6p. Like it's annoying. But I do think the neutral's pretty good for Faust. I think, for example, I think low jump 2K is really good. It will beat stroke times. You'll most of the time get that. So that beats a lot of her options. If she does like the hover dash, you're plus, which is really good, honestly. So you can jump 2K like a pretty willy-nilly versus her, and she has to start like representing like early 6Ps and some other shit. It's pretty hard for her to deal with. And also if she's doing hover dash like a lot at like these ranges, like throwing out the preemptive 5Ks is really good too. You have good neutral versus her. And if she does the note full screen, which is totally this note. If you do the note like full screen, like she has to do usually the air one because she'll get counter hit 2H like that. And like you have like the herp box on your far slash, so you can do that like trade situations. This is like a really common thing in the matchup where you just get it out of the way. If they're also doing stroke a lot, or sorry, note a lot, like doing scalpel pull is pretty good at like trying to check it. So yeah, I think the neutral's good, but the reason I think it's an even matchup is the risk reward as usual. Like she gets in, like it's pretty scary, honestly. She has a lot of good ways to deal with super PRC, etc. So I think overall it's an even matchup because of that. So this one I don't have a ton of experience in. This might be Copium. I could see this one going down a tier, but I feel pretty confident about it still. Mei I think is even for very similar reasons as Sol and Ino. You have a lot of ways to deal with her neutral. Mei's jumping is some of the best. Like she probably has the best like air game, so to speak, like of just jumping in at you. But I think Faust actually deals with this like pretty well. Like he has really good anti-airs, like with the 5K and 6P going up really high. He has good anti-airs for that. And on top of that, the post dolphin situation is pretty good also, I think. So if you just regular block it, 2P actually beats a lot of stuff here. It actually beats a lot of stuff here versus the fast dolphin. So I think like there's a lot of good situations for you in this matchup, and it makes like the Mei player have to do a lot of like preemptive stuff like this to like fish for damage, like this and like like that. But if you're cracked, you just gotta whip punish. You know what I mean? Good neutral, but like she has a lot of ways to like I guess like looking for like that big damage with her anchor buttons to get the counter hit and kill you. Chipp is interesting. I've actually fought this matchup a lot. I think Chipp has the most potential to go to true suffering. It's really hard to deal with like how fast he is, and it makes Faust have to do a lot of 2P, 5P, 2P, 5P. It's pretty shitty. And then like all the Chipp player has to do is like try to whiff punish, like do the 2S like this. The 2D is really good. You're always like having to do these like preemptive options because his dash speed is just so fast, and like throwing out like a far slash or like a 2H or something is so scary versus him because he can just he has the IED jump H threat, which is just like leads to a bunch because it has that counter hit slowdown. You do have like pretty good anti-airs for him. He can't do all he can't jump on you like all the time, Like I think you have like jump H for like when he's like triple jumping and stuff. I think that's pretty good. I think risk reward wise, it's like not the end of the world. Like he doesn't do a ton of damage. Like you get a lot of chances versus him. The offense is pretty scary though, to be fair. Another thing I really like is when the Chipp players are doing this a lot, like the 6Ps and the far slashes, you can crawl under that. Like this range, you can actually just regular block it, but this range you can crawl it. That's really good. I think that's really good in the ground game. It really forces the Chipps to have to do 2S, have to do 2D, have to do 5K, have to do 2K. I think jump 2K is pretty good in this matchup too. I actually think it's pretty good. It's really bad when you do it high up like this. Like his 5P is so good here. I think like Chipp and Sol have the best like high up jump 2K answers in the game. Like if I'm like doing this like not even that high, like here. Now let me do like tornado. I get anti-aired. Like it's pretty bad. Like if I do bag, like he can recover in time and still like run up and do shit. I actually think that is pretty scary. So you have to do low jump 2K. Okay. All right, this one I could go on forever about. I play this matchup so much. I used to think this matchup was even. You have a lot of ways to deal with Eddie. 2P, like it hits mad far, so it's really good at like sniping him from afar. If he does a lot of pierce, you can do jump 2K like that. That's really good. You have a lot of ways to kill Eddie, and I used to think that was it, right? It's like, oh man, all I gotta do is kill Eddie and I'm chilling, right? No, this character is broken because when you kill Eddie, guess what happens 3.5 seconds later? He comes back. There's a laundry list of things about why Zato's a good character. If there's one thing I could change about him, just make killing Eddie matter more. Let him die for at least 5, maybe 6. So what happens when you kill him is what you have to do is you got to pull up on him, and then you have to play this like 3.5 second like neutral game of Eddie Lizato. And in that 3.5 seconds, Faust does not get to capitalize as hard as other characters. So when I am in that situation, I can maybe throw 1 item, you know, and like maybe 2, but usually it's like whatever. Like he doesn't care, because on top of that, he is very good at dealing with Faust items because of this stupid move. Oh my god, I hate oppose with all my heart. All right, here. See, like he's really good at just absorbing Faust items. Like you can absorb meteors, you can absorb mini Faust, you can absorb bomb, you can absorb everything you can think of. It's super whack. So because of that, when you're full screen throwing items, it actually doesn't have that much reward. And also, he's very good at dealing with bomb. So he can do invite hell, which is really good at like popping it up like that. 2K, which is good at popping it up like that. He can also do Eddie drills like this, and it pops him up like that. If you're noticing a trend with all these things, is all his moves pop up the bomb. It's really hard to deal with. So as like Faust, like you have to do like this. You gotta like hit it over like that, and it's bad. Like all of it is mostly pretty bad. So bomb is pretty useless, and the other item that becomes really useless is Afro. Yeah, just like that. See, it's really annoying that he's able to do that. And the only thing you can like really do is if it's like really far away, is you can get like a 2H like that, but you get this really crappy trade where it still hits you anyway. It's really bad. I hate that Afro is basically unusable versus him, and he has no reason to like want to approach past the Afro either. Like why would Zato like want to like go and like try to get over the Afro? He doesn't have an air dash. He only has like the flight or whatever, and being full screen and him throwing items, like it doesn't matter to him anyway. So it makes for this really annoying situation. I hate this matchup. Nice thing though is because he can't air dash at you, you can do a lot of far slash in 2H and not really have the threat of like him jumping over you and stuff. I think that's pretty good. But yeah, I hate this matchup, and yeah, Jonathan's carried. I think Millia at first I thought was even, but after playing it more, I actually do think Faust slightly loses to Millia because of her dash speed. Her dash is insanely fast. Versus her, I have to constantly be throwing out these P's and K's and like low jump 2Ks and stuff to keep her out. She's definitely like Chipp light. Yeah, for sure. That's definitely a good comparison. And the risk reward for her is like pretty good, honestly. Like her set play is very scary. My damage is like okay. And you know, Millia, like she has really low, she has like no guts, like low health and all that, whatever, right? But that doesn't really shine that much versus Faust. Like Faust, he does pretty average damage, like below average damage. So I think like risk reward wise, she has that dash speed. Those are all really good things that she has going for her in this matchup that make it hard for me to keep her out and like stop getting like set played by her. Another thing is I have a lot of answers for her like air approaches. So yeah, like one thing that I really like in this matchup is that you have a lot of ways to deal with like her like constant like jumping basically. Like, jump, and that is super privileged. A lot of characters can't really do the same, like air to her as effectively as Faust does. I think it's mostly losing, but you have some things to like deal with her. Like the risk reward can feel crappy at times, but it's not like she does a million damage. She's getting a lot of mix-up opportunities, but it's not like you still have chances. Like you can burst and like maybe block right a few times, and like you can get out. All right, now it's time to really whine. I'm gonna whine it up at this section. If you lose to Faust as Rammelthal, like I don't know what to tell you. Like, bro, I promise you, I swear I could teach my mom how to play Ram, and she could probably give me the hands. Honestly, Ram destroys Faust. It's so bad. I fought this character a lot, like a lot as Faust. This matchup is booty. It's booty butt cheeks. Your answers to S and H are like jump, and all like preemptive jump and shit. Like you gotta do like, oh god, it's so bad. Like stuff like this, and that's like on a read. Like they have to be brain dead to be doing something like that. Outside of that, like you're struggling in the mid range. You can't really throw items because of the threat of dash like 5H. Like it's so rough, dude. It's so bad. And then when you get to the corner, it's party time. She has very good offense. Like it leads to a million damage. Oh my god, dude. It's just so bad. And also, another thing that really sucks about this matchup is Afro setups also suck on her for some reason. I don't know why, but this doesn't reach, which is really dumb, and I hate it. Doesn't reach. Why? Like why? Like it doesn't even make sense. And she gets 6p for some reason with the Afro on. Like it doesn't make sense. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. That's not supposed to happen. It's supposed to punish it. I hate her so much. Her 2K is stupid. Everything's about her is stupid. Oh my god, dude. In my opinion, I think it's Faust's worst matchup in the game. He gets dumpstered. Next character, Axel. Oh my god. Oh my god, my blood pressure is just going up thinking about these characters. Axel is really hard. Basically, if Faust cannot throw items effectively in the matchup, usually it's bad. I think Axel probably has the best ways to stop Faust from throwing items. It's like him and Happy Chaos. The Rensen, like this. It's really hard to throw items versus this. He's got the dash 2H. He's got the jump S, of course. It's really hard to throw any items versus him. So because of this, you have to play aggressively, which is bad. Like if you're playing aggressively as Faust, that's bad. Like he's not good at doing that. Like what's he gonna do? Like PPP? Like he's not a character that like gets close and starts offense and like mixes you. He's trying to like throw items, keep you out, like get the screen covered, and then like go in safely. You can't do that versus Axel. Like he has too many ways of just stopping you from throwing items. One thing that is nice though is because like your 6p goes up really high, like you can deal with some jump S angles that most characters couldn't. But I think this matchup is abysmal. And yeah, like I think I can't play this matchup. So Happy Chaos. This matchup is really bad. At France, I went to play in the Dragon Ball Fighters regional finals. This is like a week after Happy Chaos came out. I played against Sonic Fox, and I got destroyed. And I realized really quickly, like it had a lot of Axel vibes of like I can't throw any items versus this character because I just get shot up. And I was like, damn, I actually have to do basically what I do versus Axel, which is approach a bunch. So this automatically, I was like, this is not gonna end well. And then the more the character got developed with his guard crush loops and like his zoning structures, like I was like, okay, this is bad. I don't even think I'm gonna bother. And I very quickly was like, I need to find a secondary to fight him. A thing that's actually really nice, like I'll do like 2K and then I'll like try to like frame trap with like 5p or something afterwards. Like I think Happy Chaos is like the best at this, but like he can do like a fuzzy 2K at a timing where I can't counter hit him with 2D, and I can't like even 6P him, like he'll low profile under it, which is really annoying. You also have to deal with like his really good pokes. 2S is super good, 6S is good. You can crawl 6S though, which is nice, but overall they should just be doing 2S over and over, and like that's like why it's really hard. But yeah, can't throw items. His normals are good. It's pretty hard in my opinion. So Giovanna is really difficult. It's really hard with just how fast her dash speed is. Like she can in a second just like run full screen in 5H. She has like 2D, which is really good versus jump 2K. Versus like fast characters, like I'm always doing a lot of like Ps and low jump 2Ks. That's like a very important thing I'm like trying to do versus those characters. So for Giovanna to have like a really good option to jump 2K like that, I think that's pretty rough, honestly, and it leads to a ton of damage. Her damage output is insane. Everything goes into a knockdown, and like you just get strike thrown to death. It's pretty scary. She's just good at dash blocking at you. I'm not like pulling up and doing like some plus normal or something. I'm not like sold to be like, oh, they're dash blocking at me, I'll far slash. Like, what is Faust? Like, Faust doesn't really have really good options versus dash walk in general. So the characters that have the really fast dashes, they really show that weakness a lot. All right, and finally, last but not least, the king of the jungle, the strongest gorilla, Leia Whitefang. So Leia Whitefang, man, I was on max copium for this matchup. I was coping so hard. I don't know why. I thought like I could like keep him out or something. Like I had like good options to keep him out, and like, you know, I'll be like, oh no, obviously like if he gets in I'll die, but I have good neutral versus him. After playing this matchup more, I realized I was definitely really stupid to think that. The ground game versus him is actually pretty hard. 5K goes super far. His dash block is very good. Insanely broken dash block versus Faust. Like definitely above average. One thing I also hate is his 2D. 2D actually destroys so many of Faust pokes. Like watch. I did 2H there. I did 2P there. He goes over 2P. He can also anti-air jump 2K. Just like that. Like this button makes your life really sad. The only things that like I can do versus this is do 5 PPs or like do the 5H every once in a while. And then it'll hit him airborne and then like I get nothing off of it. But if he lands his 2D, it's over. Like you just lose the whole game off of that. And his 6P is goated. Like it has like very little recovery. So if I start poking with like 5 PPP like this and 5H like I said to deal with 2D, guess what he can do? Wow, amazing. He did run up 6P. He's so good. Blah blah blah. It's so bad. This matchup is really bad. I really thought I could keep this character out, but I was sorely mistaken. Played Aaron Demac, played Razzo. I was like, yeah, I'm trolling. This matchup's too hard. So yeah, fuck Leo. But yeah, that was my matchup chart. Thank you for watching. There's definitely some changes I want for Faust. The big things, as you can see from this matchup chart, is he struggles with dash blocking, struggles with very fast characters, he struggles with characters that like prevent him from getting his item game going. And I think as long as they try to address those problems in some way in the next Season 2 patch, I think he'll be in a good position. Right now, he's still better than most people would think. There's matchups that I think he's good at that a lot of people wouldn't say the same as I do. But I don't know if I'm on Hopium, Copium, or whatever. You can say whatever you want. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.